What's good, y'all? Tristan here, and today I'm going to be going over 10 differences about drinking alcohol and bar culture here in Australia. A quick disclaimer for this video, I have been to 4 Australian states. These are differences that I've noticed in about 4 Australian states, but I know it's different everywhere, and same goes for the US. These are like the general laws in the US, but obviously each state has some slightly different laws. Also, there's a little bit of background noise going on, and it's super windy here today, so forgive me if you hear any of that in the background of this video. I'll do my best to edit it all out. Let's get into it. The first thing alcohol related that is different in Australia than America is the definition of a light beer. So if you get a light beer in America, Bud Light, Coors Light, Miller Lite, any of the light beers, it means that it's light in calories and also kind of light in flavor. But that is not the same definition that they have here in Australia. A light beer in Australia is a beer that is between 2 and 3%. But that's something, we don't really have beers like that in America, or at least not common, but pretty much every bar will have at least one beer like that here. Why they have them here, or at least one reason why they have them, is so people can enjoy a beer socially without getting too drunk. Or if you're too drunk and you want to keep drinking, you know, it's something with less alcohol that you can switch to. Just to let all you Australians know, if you get a light beer in America, expect it to have around 4.2 to 4.6% alcohol in America. Alright, now my second difference about drinking here in Australia is a standard shot is actually smaller here. So what they consider to be one shot here in Australia is 30 milliliters, where in the US it's 1.5 ounces, and 1.5 ounces equates to 44 milliliters, so it's about 1.5 Australian shots. Just something good to know so you are aware of how much alcohol you're actually taking into your body, depending on what country you're in. Now my third difference is they do not free pour here. So if you don't know what free pouring is when you just take the bottle and you pour it into your drink. You estimate about what a shot is. Bartenders in the US are pretty good at giving you just about a shot, or however much is supposed to be in that drink. However, in Australia it's actually illegal to free pour. Anytime you get a drink, you're gonna see the bartender will have this little like shot measuring thing. It's like a cone, and they fill it up and then they pour it in the drink. It does give you a more precise amount, which is good if you want to track how much you're drinking, but if you're just trying to get drunk, it's definitely not ideal, because everyone knows in America, like, there's a lot of ways to get extra alcohol in your drink. Whether you know the bartender or, you know, you're tipping really well, there's always a way. Selfishly, I do like that about American bars, but if you're going for safety, I think Australia does do it better. Now this brings me to my fourth difference, and that is drinking here in Australia is so much more expensive than it is in America. They do tax alcohol very heavily here, but it does help pay for their healthcare, so not a bad trade-off. Do expect, if you come to Australia, to be paying, depending on what you're getting, 2 to 3 times the price for alcohol for a drink. One thing I do want to point out is that bars, it's actually not that much more expensive to drink at bars here than it is back in the US. But then I realized what I talked to earlier is there's just less alcohol in each drink. Obviously beer is going to be about the same, but like if you're ordering a cocktail, or I don't know, like a gin and tonic, something like that, the amount of spirits you're going to get in it is less. Alright, hey y'all, quick time out, future Tristan here. So there are way more than just 10 differences in drinking between the 2 different countries, and there are 3 things that I didn't mention and I felt like were just too good not to include, so here they are. So my first little bonus difference is seltzer. So seltzer is huge in America, especially in the past like 3-4 years. You know, it has absolutely exploded, it's blown up. I think White Claw was the first, you know, big one to come around, and then now there's, you know, Truly's, every big alcohol brand like Bud Light, Smirnoff, you know, they've all made their own seltzer. You can't go anywhere without seeing seltzers. Like, they are such a big thing in America, and they are not here in Australia. So I actually hadn't even seen one for like my whole time here, and I went looking for one to see if they even had them here, and it turns out they do. I found them in a bottle, but there was like one little 4-pack in like a little corner. Like, they're not a big thing like they are in America. But if you do want one, you should be able to find one. It's just no one here, like if you ask, no one's gonna know what it is. Like, I think I've even asked all my European backpacker friends, like, they're not big in Europe, they're not big here. It's just not really a thing yet anywhere besides America. Number 2, this is also another big one. This is a huge part of drinking culture that you probably won't understand unless you come here, but that is Goon. So Goon is what we would call in America like box wine. It is super cheap wine that they put in a box. They're either sold in 4 or 5 liter Goon bags, but it is like the cheapest way to drink in America. The best way I could like compare it to like a drink in America, it's kind of like the stereotype of like a Four Loko. Like, they're super nasty, but they get you drunk, and it's really cheap, and like when you're young and you're like trying to like grab alcohol, like it's something that you're gonna get. That is what Goon is here. Most alcohol, as I've said, is super expensive in Australia, but not this. This is so cheap. A 4 to 5 liter bag will probably cost you about $10 US. And then the third difference is that they use bottles way more than cans here in Australia. You know, I'd say in America it's probably more cans, or it's about 50-50. And if you ever get like a case, like a 24-pack, what they call a slab here, it's gonna be cans, most likely. Like, I don't think I've ever seen 24 bottles in a case. Anyways, not the case here. It's, I'd say like 75% chance gonna be in bottles. Bottles are way more common, and actually when you get a 24, like a slab of beer, if it's bottles, which it most likely is, it's gonna be 4 6-packs that they then put in like a box, and you like carry the box. So it's a little bit different, but not really. Alright, let's continue on with the rest of these differences. Next one everyone knows about, but that is the drinking age. Here it's 18, America's 21. Not much to say about it. Australia definitely does it better in my opinion. I think 21's kind of ridiculous, but Yeah. Number 6, and this is something I really like about Australia's drinking culture, and that is bars don't all close at 2 a.m. In America, unless if you're like in like Vegas or I don't know, maybe like New York, like pretty much all bars, clubs, they all close at 2 a.m. Here in Australia, it has more to do with what license you get. So like at a bar I worked at, they bought a liquor license that let them serve until 1 a.m. But there's also clubs that will buy a liquor license that lets them serve 24/7. So I know there's a club called Revs or Revolvers in Melbourne, and it is open 24/7. Or not 24/7, but it opens on like a Thursday and it closes Monday morning. Some bars choose to close at 5, 4, whatever time they want, whatever type of bar they want to be. That's just the liquor license that they choose to get. It is the same thing with liquor stores here. I know like most of them close at 9, some will close at midnight, but there's one in Melbourne that is 24/7. If there's anything in this video that is different in different states, it's definitely this one. I know what I just said is true to Victoria, and some parts of it are true to other states, but I know like in Sydney, for example, which is in New South Wales, you can't serve spirits after midnight at a bar. Next up, if you want to buy a alcoholic beverage that isn't from like a bar or something like that, the only way to get it is to go to a liquor store, or what they call here a bottle-o, just a store that only sells alcohol. You won't find it at gas stations, you won't find it at a grocery store, you're not going to find it at a pharmacy like a CVS or Walgreens. Bottle-os are the only place you can get it. Now, I will say, there's pretty much a bottle-o outside of every single grocery store here. Oftentimes they're like connected to the grocery store, but that is just a slight difference. Another small thing I've noticed is that there are less imported beers here. We get a lot of imported beers in America, whereas I think in Australia, I mean, yes, of course they still have imported beers, but local brews and just Australian beers seem to be much more common here in Australia. Next up is something Australia does extremely well, and I think the US could learn a lot here, and that is the way that they enforce drinking and driving. So there's kind of two parts to this. So first, kind of more minor, is like for us the legal limit to drive is 0.08 BAC, where here it's 0.05. So just to be able to like legally drive here, your BAC has to be about half almost of what of the American level that you can legally drive on. That's probably smart, but I don't know, that's not really like a super big deal. That's not like what I want to focus on. What I think Australia does super well is that they catch people who are drunk so much better than we do in America. Pretty much the only way to get caught drunk driving in America is like if you crash, or if you're swerving and like a cop pulls you over, or you get pulled over for some other like traffic related thing and then they think that you're drunk. Whereas here in Australia, or at least I know in Victoria they do this, is they have these big buses that they're all times of the day, you know, 2 p.m, 4 in the morning, they're out all the time. They'll park them on a road, they'll shut it down, bring it down to one lane. Every single car that goes through has to come through. There's a bunch of cops standing, you breathe into this little thing, and if you're good, then you can go. Just in Melbourne, they do close to 100,000 of these stops a year. That's not like 100,000 breathalyzers. That's like they stop for like, I don't know, an hour or something, and they test every single car driving by 100,000 times in a year. Don't quote me on that 100,000 number, I'm not positive on that, but like it's a lot. So this shouldn't have to be said, but if you come to Australia, don't drink and drive. There is a high likelihood you're gonna get caught. Alright, now my last difference between America and Australia is the sizes of beer. So here in Australia, and this is different in each state slightly, but there are different sizes of beer. I think the sizes are the same, but it goes like in Victoria, it goes pot, schooner, pint, jug. Whenever you're ordering a beer, you know exactly how big it's gonna be. In America, like depending on which restaurant you go to, you know, you can get a tall beer, you can get an extra big jumbo beer, or you can get just like their standard size beer, but it's gonna be different at each restaurant. We have no like standard measurement system for how big beer should be, so I don't know, it's just kind of different depending on the bar you go to. If you'd like to see some other differences between America and Australia, make sure you click that video right over there. Thank you all so much for watching. Peace.